Hey, it's Cris Chico, and the question of the day is cold calling dying? And if you're doing cold calling, are you putting yourself in a position of risk and or wasting your time and going into a completely saturated method of finding real estate deals? That's what I'm going to answer for you in today's video, and I'm doing today's video from VidCon 10, the YouTube conference. Yes, I've been spending here the last 3.5 days. It has been fun, it has been interesting. I've gotten a chance to relax and enjoy my time with my daughters, and they are having so much fun seeing all their favorite creators. But this is the last day, and I gotta tell you, I am tired. I need a vacation after this place. However, I want to do a video for you today, and that's what we're gonna be discussing here today. Remember, you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and if you are interested in learning how to find motivated sellers using my favorite technique, which is using Facebook advertising, it is the most unsaturated, it is the least saturated method of finding motivated sellers. You've got to watch my training. You really have to watch my training, because I'm going to walk you through step by step. People have watched my training and have been able to use my have watched my training and have been able to use my training, just a free training, and get their ads up and running and have great success. And I want you to watch it. So click on the links in the description, or you can go to flipanywhere.com, and check it out. So, is cold calling dead or dying? Well, I think it is. You tell me. I want to know what you think. First reason, saturation. How many investors do I speak with? And I always ask them, hey, specifically, what are you doing to find motivated sellers? And 9 times out of 10, they say cold calling. Why? Because they think it's cheap. They think it's inexpensive. But, you know, a couple years ago, when it first came out, when people were starting to do cold calling, it was great. But now, I mean, I tried cold calling. I tried cold calling in Miami. I was calling a tax delinquent list. And what ended up happening is that I was calling the tax delinquent list and calling the absentee owner list, and these sellers were telling me, check this out, these sellers were telling me, hey, I've gotten 3 calls from someone already today about my property. 3 calls from someone already this week about my property. And I said to myself, well, gee, that's interesting. That means that there are a lot of people calling these sellers. And so if everybody's calling them, then, you know, I got to go where other sellers are not. And that's why I started to use Facebook ads to find motivated sellers, because cold calling is saturated, direct mail is saturated, Facebook ads, nobody knew how to do that. So I figured out a way to do it, and that's why I'm doing it. But it is saturated. You tell me, do you think it's saturated or not? Second reason is that a lot of the carriers now, Verizon, AT&T, now I used to get a lot of robocalls, right? And when I say cold calling, I'm throwing in their RVM. All right, let's just throw it in there. I mean, when you're building a fire and you're burning something up, hey, you look for other things. You know what? Might as well throw that in there. So RVM is the same thing. A lot of these carriers, Verizon Wireless, AT&T, they are now have software to be able to identify robocalls, spam calls, etc. You start calling a bunch of people using a phone number, because you need to put in a caller ID for your phone number. They're going to quickly identify that number as a spam number, and then now when somebody calls in, it no longer shows the phone number, right? Because people are crafty, right? They're calling me with a 954 number. I'm getting like calls that from a 954 number. Now on the phone it says AT&T risk number, AT&T spam number, and they're telling me like, oh, don't pick up. So that's what you have to deal with. People are getting bombarded with these calls. They associate, like right on my phone, I hardly get any phone calls. Nobody gets any phone calls. I call my wife and she says, what's wrong? Why are you calling me? Why didn't you text me? Why didn't you WhatsApp me? Nobody's getting calls. So now when you see a call that's a strange number, what do you think? Oh, it's a robocall, it's a telemarketer. That's what you're dealing with. And you are not a welcome guest. You are an annoying pest coming into people's life when you're cold calling them. And that's why I think that you're fighting an uphill battle when you're doing cold calling, and that's why I think it's dying. And let's talk about the third reason, which I just kind of mentioned here. Who calls other people nowadays? Nobody wants you to call them. They want to communicate with you by messenger. They want to communicate with you by text. And then they want to kind of warm up the conversation before they talk to you over the phone. And so you're being a pest by calling people. Now texting, I don't believe in texting en masse, but one of the things that we do when we get our lead, first of all, is we communicate with them by text. We say, hey, by the way, thank you for submitting the form. Love to chat with you about the property. When would be a good time to chat? And they respond, and then we call them. But now they have that phone number in their phone as being, okay, this is a trusted person. This is not a robocall or anything like that. And you have the upper hand. And so that's I'll tell you an interesting story. My wife was going out and getting a health insurance, right? When the whole new year comes up and you got to figure out if you're going to keep your health insurance, etc. So she inputted her information in one of the websites, and she starts getting calls and calls and calls from these people wanting to sell her insurance. That's what they want to do. They're all calling her. What does she do? She ignores every single phone call, every one of them. However, one guy only sends her a text and introduces himself and said, look, if you're interested, let me know. We can have a small conversation here and kind of get the ball rolling. She went back and forth with the guy for about a week. Finally, they got on the phone and he closed the deal. Why? Because he wasn't an annoying pest. He said, you know what? Most people are going to be calling. I'm going to be texting because most people text. Think about it. Every single communication nowadays you have with people is your text messaging them. You're not cold calling them. So again, get with the program. It's 2019. The best way to find sellers, they're online. I recently had a client that had his first deal with Facebook. You know how old the seller was? The seller was 85 years old, and she was on Facebook. And I'm like, dude, that's where the money's at. They're online. People have phones nowadays. Come on. So cold calling, are you a dinosaur? Are you fighting an uphill battle? Are you going to fight and scramble for leads and deals among everybody else? Or do you want to spend hours and hours on the phone, talking to people and getting your ear chewed out? Which, by the way, what do you think about the Barbie background here for me? With the bald head, etc.? Maybe. Anyway, those are the reasons why I think that cold calling is dying. It's dead. Get on with the program. Find motivated sellers online. Use my Facebook program. Join the training that I have. At least watch it. See if it tickles your fancy. How about that? You might look at it and say, no, Chico, it ain't for me. Or you might look at it and say, whoa, Chico, that's a really interesting concept. Maybe I should try that. Never know. Maybe you get a deal. Maybe I'll have you on a YouTube interview. Come on, let's do it. All right. That's my video for today. Hope you are having a great day. I am going to go back to the foolishness associated and the running around with the VidCon video YouTube conference, make the best of my day, and then we're on to the rest of my vacation. We're going to be here in California up until the end of the month. And check this out. Let me show you something. Got a lot of people walking around with these kind of costumes here. Look at that. Interesting, right? Yeah. I didn't want to be too creepy and follow too closely, and they would be like, who's this guy with the camera following us around? Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon.